It's now 17 minutes after the hour of 7 o'clock on this Tuesday morning. Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. Now, the July-August vacation is upon us, and it is usually the time when children flock to the beaches, rivers, and pools, basically any open body of water for some fun activities. But how can we ensure that we keep them safe? And as adults, how can we ensure that we are also safe when we go to these large bodies of water? And so with me to talk more about water safety tips is Water Safety Education Officer at the Ministry of National Security, Mr. Allister Livingston. Mr. Livingston, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Now, we're talking water safety and how we can keep our children safe. How can we keep our children safe when they go to the beaches and the rivers and the pools?
One of the first things we need to take in consideration when we go anywhere there's water, first and foremost, we need to keep our kids or children very close to us, meaning no further than an arm's length away or arm's reach away. Because in some areas, like for instance, the river has what you call uneven depth, uneven surface. You could be standing like knee height, and 2 steps away, you have a sudden drop, right? As well as adults. Also, we do not put our kids in flotation devices and think that, they are safe.
Because I was going to ask about that. Some parents may argue that they have the flotation devices on their armband. Yeah.
No, well, as you can see, they have a disclaimer on it. This is not a life-saving device. It is not advisable to put your kids, even adults, in any type of flotation device, especially when they cannot swim. Because these devices, sometimes they could actually puncture. You ever see a child jump into a pool with 2 armbands on, place their arms up in the air, and when you look, you just see 2 armbands floating and the child is to the bottom of the pool. If you cannot swim, what is your situation there? So what we advise, you do not place your kids or yourself as adults or teenagers or indulge in any type of floats, especially where that water is deep, and try to wade out, because you can be easily pulled out by current, wind, or it could puncture. And what is the situation you're going to be facing?
Now, Mr. Livingston, you said if your child can't swim. So, for example, if a parent is looking on now and they're like, listen, I've been training my child, I've been giving him or her swimming lessons for the past few months or for the past few years, is it okay to leave them and you can be on the beach and just, oversee them while they're in the water?
No. Why? Because the ocean poses a lot of different dangers. For instance, if you go to Maracas Beach or any beach that has waves, you're looking at the waves. That child may be able to swim. They may be in, which you're not supposed to be in a float. That wave could tumble you. You can be crashed to the seabed. You have the rip currents, which you can be pulled out. If you are not trained to exit from a rip current, because a rip current will pull you out. And if you don't know how to get out of that force of water, you can be pulled out and you may get in a panic because you may try to get to shore. And in trying to get to shore, you just get tired. So what we advise, you swim to the sides, right?
So what I'm hearing is that there are different safety tips for different bodies of water.
Yes.
So, for example, beach versus pool versus rivers.
Yes.
Can you explain some more?
Okay, we're going to start with the at home. If we have our basic little blow-up pools, you don't put your children, kids, unsupervised. We also advise that you don't leave those kids in the supervision of an older child, like a teenager, because again, we are in the modern age with phone, they can be distracted, the tablet, and sometimes they take it for granted. I'm just going to walk away for a couple seconds. It only takes a couple seconds for anybody to drown, especially children. So it is very, very, very important that whenever you have these kids in these home pools, you make sure that they have adult supervision at all times. If you have to go inside, you remove the kids from that pool. Never leave them in that pool also with floats. Added to that, we also have the ground pool.
Yes.
We advise, make sure that they also supervise. Sometimes when those pools are not in use, for instance, the blow-up pool, we ask you empty it, deflate it, put it away. For the ground pool, you remove the ladders and you place a cover Also, some of us, we have the ground pools that we use, a lot of those little toys that the kids could go and, do the little dives and retrieve them.
Yes.
We leave the little beach balls or the little floaties. You don't ever leave these kind of floats in these pools, be it the normal baby pool, the ground pool, and your home swimming pool, which is big, fancy pool, because these kids are going to walk, try to retrieve it. Also, for the bigger pools, like the swimming pools, we advise that you always keep that fenced.
Yes.
Because, again, children are naturally attracted to water, and they gravitate. And they could just look over a child, their head is being the heaviest thing on their body, they can topple over very easily. So we advise that, we keep these areas. Going to the rivers, we have a lot of people going to the rivers right now. Right now we're in the season where we have a lot of storm watch, we have a lot of rainfalls. Be very mindful when we go to these rivers, pay attention to the weather. If you see it's overcast, do not take it for granted that I'm swimming here, nothing's going to happen. Sometimes 5 miles up the river, we have that rainfall, and you have that water volume is gradually building, and it's going to come down and could wash you away. When we go to the rivers, bear in mind, never dive into the unknown waters. Make sure and look, watch your bottom, watch for rocks, watch for any type of projectiles, because sometimes you may go to a river to the end, tomorrow you go there at a branch
or a
rock,
yes.
And we have other objects like people throw in the river that could move and come in place, and you could lose your life or you could be injured. Also bear in mind when we go to the rivers, the sudden change in depth. All right, we have to be very, very careful of that as well. Going to the beaches, but the beaches are a vast area. First and foremost, what we advise our patrons, try to go to beaches that have that lifeguard coverage, right? The hours that the lifeguard work at 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m.
This is on all public beaches?
The beaches that the lifeguards are,
assigned to.
Yes,
right.
And some of those beaches are Maracas, Las Cuevas, Taricoche is in the north, and then we have Toco, Celebia, which is further east, and Manzanilla is out of commission right now because of the erosion on the beach. And in the south, we have Vecini, Lucero, and Quinam. So we have those beaches that we have the lifeguards on. We advise that the people tend to go within these hours, never go at night, never go swimming alone. Bear in mind, floatation devices for non-swimmers or weak swimmers, you should not use these devices. If you're a weak swimmer or a non-swimmer and you go to a beach that has waves, we advise that for adults or the teenagers, you don't swim deeper than waist depth. For the smaller kids, knee depth. Whenever adult go into the water, we make sure that you have that distance, that safe distance of the arm's reach away. Also, sometimes the lifeguards may tell you, bathe at waist depth. Be very, very mindful when you go in that water, you don't bathe at your waist depth. You bathe at the child's or the children waist depth.
Yes.
Because at your height, when that wave comes in, they're going to be covered, all right?
Now, one quick question, Mr. Livingston, and I hope it's not too technical for
No.
you. The flags, the red flag and the yellow and red flags. Tell us what's the difference.
Right. When you go to the beaches, lifeguards use red and yellow flags. The red flags identify or mark off dangerous areas. You do not swim directly in front of these red flags or close to the red flags. Excuse. The red and yellow flags are used to mark off a safer bathing area. You swim between these two red and yellow flags. But it is red and yellow because there is really no safe zone in that water. It means that you still need to exercise that level of caution, and under the lifeguard supervision, they are there to guide you and direct you. You hear the whistle, look to shore, lifeguard will indicate to you whether you need to come in.
Because you drift. Because when you're swimming, you drift as well. So
Also,
sometimes you start by the red and yellow when you buy the red.
Yes. So another thing that for safety for anybody that goes to the beach, Whenever you go to the beach, although there's lifeguards, or you may go on a beach that they don't have lifeguards, what you need to do is orient yourself. Take a fixed marker on the beach, and every 45 seconds, make sure that you're in line with that. Once you get that safe bathing area where that seabed is nice and flat. Anytime you go on the beach and you have those lot of potholes, or you feel shifting sand, or you feel that sudden drop in the seabed, do not enter into these areas. They are very, very dangerous.
Oh, I think we see a lot of, during this season, sometimes you see a lot of people drowning.
Yes.
Can you confirm if there are certain beaches that might be rougher than others during this time?
Yes, you have a lot of beaches that's going to be a little more, the water condition, mainly on the north and northeast coast, you're going to have where you have a lot more waves.
Yes.
And because of the waves, you have the rip currents, and sometimes you have what you call the ground swells that create the little drop and the sudden slope or the steep slopes on these beaches. Whereas in the Western Peninsula, you have that more calm water like Carnage,
yes.
and going down to the south, the water is more, flat.
So when you say the north coast, you're talking Maracas and Las Cuevas and
yes, and going up to Blanchisseuse, and then we have going up to Tuco, Matura, all up the way up to Matlot. If you look at that water on that side, it's very, very choppy.
Yes.
And if you have a little wind, the water is going to get a little more turbulent. So
now, I know we only have a few more minutes, Mr. Livingston, but I wanted to touch on the fact that because it's a July-August vacation, parents may be, leaving their children with, let's say, relatives or with other adults. Do you advise that they allow their children to go with an adult to one of these open bodies of water?
Yes and no. Why I would say yes or no? Because if you don't have a history of that person, the awareness of water and safety, it is not advisable. Why? Because you may send your child with an adult and they don't have that knowledge, or they don't exercise that level of safety or care for your child. So there is a risk by you sending your child with somebody who don't exercise that level of responsibility in and around the aquatic environment. So it is not advisable. And
but if it's somebody you know can handle themselves pretty well in the water,
yes,
is
but
it
you
safe?
still need to reinforce that level of safety in taking care of your child or your children, because sometimes, as I said, it just takes a couple minutes for you to just take your eye off a child or infant or children, and they can drift out into the water. They could be playing with a ball. So another thing, you don't play ball games in the water, because in throwing the ball, it could go out further into the water, and you try to retrieve it, and you could be in trouble.
Yeah.
So.
Right, well, Mr. Livingston, thank you so much for coming on the show and just sharing exactly how we can keep our children and ourselves as well, because there are many adults who can't swim. So, of course, keeping ourselves as well safe as we make our way to the beaches, rivers, and those open bodies of water. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
And that was the Water Safety Education Officer at the Ministry of National Security, just sharing some water safety tips with us on this Now Show on a Tuesday morning. Of course, it's Tuesday, so up next we have Shamla with Unique Not Different. Stay with us.